What's up, y'all? It's your girl, Amanda, and welcome to another episode of the Dope Confidence Podcast. I have been speaking to some amazing people, and today I have the pleasure of interviewing someone I met in a community specifically for women, entrepreneurs, and business owners. Her name is Beth Carr. She is a highly energetic, creative brand, messaging strategist, growth marketer, and certified story brand guy with 18 years, y'all. 18 years of experience of delivering content and creative solutions needed for revenue success. And most of all, she's a dope queen. She is a dope queen, and I'm excited to have this conversation with her to share about her journey of becoming. So let me bring her in the room. Hey, Beth, how are you?
Hey, beautiful queen yourself. I'm doing great.
Good. I am so excited to speak with you. We met, it's been like, what, 2 years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
We met 2 years ago. And this is when I was on my journey of evolving from coming out of the COVID experience with closing down my co-working space and finding my path, my new path as an entrepreneur. And I saw Beth, and I'm like, I need to talk to her. And the moment that I talked to her, I loved her spirit, but also we are super connected because we are both a part of the entertainment industry. And so I am just excited for y'all to get to know her, to hear her story, and also she can drop some gems on you today that's going to be life-changing and applicable for your life. So Beth, tell us a little bit about your journey of becoming, because you weren't always a growth marketer or a strategist. Tell us about your journey. How did you start?
Yeah. I love this. I think most professionals, most incredible women that you meet nowadays that are running businesses, they've had many past lives. So in a
Yes.
prior lifetime, I was an entertainer. I was a singer, dancer, actor. I pursued a Broadway career. I was in New York City. I joke and say that I'm a recovering Broadway actor, um, or that I was a failed Broadway actor because I never really like hit it. But I was employed as a New York actor,
Okay.
uh, singing from the orchestra pit or an understudy in a show or helping develop a Broadway show.
I love it.
Um, but nothing is for naught, right? So everything
Yes.
happens for a reason. So all that acting training, getting a degree in acting and in performing, going to New York, uh, hitting the streets, getting the auditions, getting cast. That's all marketing. And so
Mm.
what happened for me was in my evolution and realizing that even though I was pursuing my dream as an actor, I wasn't filled with joy. And part of it was the way women were treated in entertainment, where
Mm-hmm.
it didn't matter if you were talented or not. It was really about how you looked, how much you weighed, how high,
Wow.
how tall you were,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera. That I realized for me, I didn't have the joy because I didn't have a tough enough skin to handle the constant negative judgments and feedback. And
Mm.
so as a typical New York actor, I was also a bartender, a hostess, a waitress in a lot of different restaurants. And one restaurant I particularly worked in was down in the village, in Greenwich Village. I
Mm-hmm.
loved it there. And one of the constant customers that came in, he was always talking to me. And he was like, you know what? I really love the way you think outside the box. You have a very creative mindset. What if I trained you free through my temp agency how to be a graphic designer for Wall Street? There's a specific template that they need.
Wow.
I'm going to train you, and then we'll see how you do and if you like it. And I was like, hey, why not? And I think that in itself is a lesson, that yes, and let's see, like leaning into curiosity.
Mm.
I was like, what is it going to hurt? What is it going to take off my nose if I just go
Yes.
do that during the day, while I have rehearsal at night?
Wow.
And so I realized in showing up to this temp agency for 2 straight weeks of free training that I had a joy. All of a sudden, I was producing design that was being judged. I was no longer the one being judged. And
Mm.
so it was this separation that I needed.
Yeah.
And so when people would say, give me feedback that they didn't like the design, I didn't take it personally. I was like, I think I've freed myself from some of those inner negative voices of judgment and never
Uh-huh.
feeling good enough or, right enough.
Yeah.
And so I found a new belonging and I thrived working as a graphic designer for investment banks like Merrill Lynch, JP
Wow.
Morgan, American Express. And because I loved it so much, I decided to go back to night school to NYU. I learned um, how to design better. I took online courses. I did all sorts of things to start to grow into being a more uh, facile designer. And
Yeah.
through that, just very slowly over time, I grew in responsibility. I was a manager, then I was a creative director, then I was a
Wow.
VP of marketing, and then a fractional CMO. And all the time, that whole journey, I leaned very much into understanding, just like an actor, what is the story of a brand?
Hmm.
And so that's where I started to niche in, besides design, is how do you take brand identity and how a brand makes people feel and match it with the power of messaging. So, what are the
Wow.
strategies
Uh-huh.
of messaging and design? And then, how do you tactically help brands, entrepreneurs, founders, scaling businesses use the power of both of those, design and messaging, to have growth, right? So, growth
Mm-hmm.
marketing, empathy marketing.
Wow. And that,
Yeah.
what an amazing opportunity for him to even see that in you, right? Like, it's always been there. You've been a visionary, I'm sure, all of your life. Probably when you were a little kid, you had like huge vision. And for him to just say, "Hey, let me give you this opportunity." Did you, in the process when you said yes, and you're learning how to do all these things and going back to school for branding and marketing, did you feel a little bit of fear, like maybe this is a good path, but maybe not, because you're used to being in the entertainment industry and this is polar opposite?
Yeah, there were a few things. There definitely was fear because my identity was tied up in being a performer and
Mm,
being seen,
yeah.
having a place of belonging in a tribe of entertainers that, we all were different. We were all othered or marginalized growing up, whether
Yeah.
we were people of color, whether we were queer, whatever it was, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so that tribe, what I realized was, yes, that's entertainment, but so is marketing.
That's so odd that you say that. Can you break that down, how marketing is entertainment in your perspective?
Yeah, because to me, you can take what you do as a performer, where you are reminding the audience of their humanity
Mm.
through making them feel something on stage, on film, in a commercial.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's the same thing that's happening in marketing. In marketing, brand identity and design is going to make you feel something. Words create worlds. They invite you in. They make you stay. So
Yes.
that too is a form of entertainment. It too is a form of humanity,
Mm.
reminding people of their humanity.
Wow.
It's just it's kind of like turning the table. It's a different perspective. And
Mm-hmm.
so to me, it was a really natural segue to realize, first as an actor, oh, let me dig into the inner monologue and what, like, the drum that beats for this character. Well,
Mm.
now what if the brand is now the character, right? If
Mm.
I always say, if a brand were a human, how would it dress, sound, act, make people feel?
Mm. Yeah. And I'm envisioning that now as you're speaking. Like, I can definitely see that perspective of it. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So you went to you got your education, you deep dive into really becoming this brand, um, this strategist, this marketer. When did you step out and say, okay, Beth, it's time for you to launch your own business?
Hmm. Well, being in New York for so long, when I first moved back to the Bay Area where I am now, I had opened my own graphic design business. And
Okay.
I did that for about 5 years, serving more of the financial investment banker community, consulting community.
Mm-hmm.
And then at that time, because I was still younger in my career and such a people pleaser, I didn't realize like I just had no boundaries. And I was more like taking orders and being a doer versus being the strategist in the room and telling the
Mm.
clients, this is what you need, right? I was more like, what do you think? And so because of that and having no boundaries, there was no such thing as Thanksgiving as a holiday off or a birthday or your family's sick, stop what you're doing. So
Wow.
after 5 years of that, I was like, you know what? I don't know how to do this well yet. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
go into corporate. And so I was in a corporate track for almost 15 years.
Wow.
Um, and then 2019 was my year of reckoning. I was at a startup that checked all the boxes. I got to travel internationally. I was helping them rebrand. I helped them raise $35 million in VC funding.
Really?
I was named Employee of the Year. I headed up a very talented international marketing team. And right before Thanksgiving, after they got their funding, after all these kudos and awards, they laid me off on Zoom in front of my whole entire marketing team. Now,
What?
mm, in hindsight, it was a blessing because it was just a couple months before shelter in place and COVID shut everything down. Um, but
Don't go
that
past
day,
that, Beth. How did you feel? How did you
oh,
feel when that was happening? Did you even feel it
oh
coming,
no,
like in the conversation?
I had no clue. I was so blindsided, and on top of that, these founders,
Oh my God.
they had become friends. They had become friends. They were in my home. They had become friends with my husband. Like it was so out of body experience. I was gutted. And yet, as I walked back home that day after being laid off, and I called my husband, and he's like, that's not funny. I'm like, I'm not joking.
Wow.
That was the moment where I was like, okay, universe, I need some guidance. Like, what am I supposed to do next? Because there had been a series of being laid off every 18 months. And
Really?
so this was my fourth job that had happened with because I was in the startup world where that just, marketing's the first to be on the chopping block a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying I agree with that. I think all companies need marketing, but
Right.
I was right. So
Wow.
when I got back, on my commute home, that's where like what I call the wise voice. I'm very spiritual, not religious, so I will just say it was the wise voice that was
Mm-hmm.
like, you have a gift to be able to serve many instead of one and make millions for many instead of one. And so it's
Mm.
time for you to use your talents, use your IP, how you know how to help grow brands.
Yeah.
It's time for you to go serve more. And where my heart really is serving other women of color, other queer folk, and marginalized people so that they too can leave a 9 to 5 that is
Yeah.
making them feel like they're too filled with toxic energy or
Wow.
be able to achieve their dreams through whatever it is that they're serving and make impact. And so
Wow.
2019 was my year.
Wow. So four times layoffs.
Every
Uh
18 months.
every 18 months, like clockwork. And then this final one, which was, like you said, a punch in the gut. Like it took the wind out of your sail. But yet it was the turning point for you. That was the moment when you were like, this is your divine calling. It seems like it's bad, but this is a good thing that's happening for you. So you had that moment with the universe. And so then what did you do next? What was the next step after you've got that epiphany?
Yeah. Well, this is where we hear it a lot, right? Surround yourself with people who are going to lift you up
Mm-hmm.
and reflect the transformation of who you want to become or who you're becoming, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I took stock that day on that commute. It was a long commute in my head. It was a long commute where I was like, I am on my knees. I am crying, universe. I feel so gutted. My identity was wrapped up in this role. Now who
Man.
am I? And so then I took inventory of stock of like, who can I lean into in my
Mm.
network, in my environment that is going to be supportive through this really dark moment, my dark season, right? And
Wow.
so,
Mm-hmm.
of course, the first person I speak to is my partner, my life spouse, right? And he was like, okay, we're going to get through this. And I'm like, well, we've made our way out of like getting out of debt because of these
Mm.
corporate jobs. So now we are consumer debt free. We've saved $10,000. Can
Okay.
I use that $10,000 to go get certified as a copywriter? And he was like, you're speaking crazy, but you know what? I so deeply believe in you.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
So that's what I did next. I went and I got certified as a StoryBrand guide, which is an approach and a framework of empathy storytelling that
Mm.
places you as the guide and your audience as the hero.
Wow.
And I leaned deeply into that certification. And because of that, I was able to 30x my investment by the following year.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. And what an amazing partner you have, right? One of my other episodes, I was talking to a guy and he was talking about how supportive his wife was, how she was working a job while he was, in the licensing, music licensing, and his career just
Mm.
blew up. The same thing with you, that it's important to have a partner, right? That supports you and believes in you wholeheartedly, because without that, if he would have said, I don't think so, Beth. That's not the right move. It would have broke your
Yeah.
heart.
Then I would have, well, first of all, then COVID hit, right? So there were no jobs to be had, especially here in the Bay Area. Everything's shut.
Yeah.
So I would have been not contributing, out of work, with my whole future
Yeah.
in a recruiter's hands, right?
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that was the other thing for me that was driving me. It's like, I no longer want people to be in control of my destiny. Just like how I felt when I was an actor. I was like, why do you control my destiny? I want to be
Mm.
able to be in the driver's seat.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So
Hmm.
you were the driver of your dream of launching this business. So you invested, you got the certification, and you 30x your business in 1 year.
Well, actually, I think I even said that wrong. I
Okay.
exceeded, I 30x the investment within a very short time. By the end of the year, I had exceeded my salary that I had been making in that job in corporate. I had exceeded it. So I
Wow.
made more that year than I had even working all those hours and helping drive growth for that startup within that first year.
Now, what kind of self belief and confidence did it take for you to go wholeheartedly 100% into your business during COVID with no corporate job to support? Like, what did it take? What did it take for you to achieve that?
Hmm. Here's one of the biggest ingredients that a lot of successful entrepreneurs don't talk about: joy. I
Mm,
leaned so deeply into the ingredient of joy, and the joy that I got to see in helping an entrepreneur that had been in business for a year and a half, for example, that had a brick and mortar that was
yeah.
like, hey, I'm now stuck in brick and mortar. No one's come into my shop. COVID helped
Mm-mm.
me get online with e-commerce. So there was joy. I was like, I know how to do that. I know how to take you from brick and mortar to digital. I know how to tap into who you are as a personal brand and then as a product brand. I know how to get that messaging live. I know how to create a brand identity and a brand compass for you so you never lose your way online, right? And so it
Wow.
was joy. That was a driving ingredient. And then of course, your knowledge, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also like, hey, I'm going to test this and if I'm wrong, I'm going to figure it out,
Yeah.
right? So it's
Yeah.
a combination.
I love
And
that.
moving through fear, like not letting the fear of not knowing hold me back. Because if anything, I was like, right now, because of COVID, there isn't another option. So you're going to make
Mm.
lemonade.
Yeah. And some darn
Yeah.
good lemonade, huh?
Yeah. No artificial sweetener.
It's the purest of pure, huh?
It was
Uh,
organic lemonade.
yes. And I love your transparency. Earlier, before we started the episode, we were talking about the valleys. So let's talk about that. You had a very great perspective of there's value in the valleys. Now, as an entrepreneur, as a woman that owns a business, I know that you have experienced those valleys. So tell me, how do we deal, how do we stay confident, how do we still believe in ourselves in the valley, and then how can we find the value in the valley? I love
So
that.
first of all, I want to credit Value in the Valley. I want to credit one of my dear friends, Wendy
Okay.
Lee Curtis, who's part of my CEO squad, for giving me that quote. Um, so how do you hold on strong when you're in the valley and
Yeah.
when you're in the shadow of the mountain, as I had been saying? Um, I think I think what's really important to keep in mind is the only way forward in growth is sometimes there is a dark and cold off path that you somehow have like found yourself on.
Mm.
And um, and I'm going to use another analogy that I use a lot to stay strong during times where things are challenging.
Sure.
If you want to be a strong tree, think about it for a moment. That tree started as a seed in the dark, cold ground alone, having to push hard and push through the
Yeah.
soil to emerge into the sun. And so when we're in these moments, I I always remind myself in these moments like, and this too shall pass. And just like
Mhm.
good times, bad times don't last.
Yeah.
The shadows shift, the sun will break through,
Yeah.
warmth always finds its way, and
Yeah.
to move forward. And even if it's like little baby steps where you're feeling overwhelmed, like, okay, I have no new clients right now. What can I do today, even if it's a small action, to move forward so that I can have the conversations
Hmm.
or create curiosity so that I attract more of my ideal client?
Yeah. And how can we find value in those times?
These are the moments where I have really embraced the stillness, right?
Mm.
So instead of all the distraction and the noise and the busyness, like what happens if you're still? I say a lot like you're not stuck, you're just still,
Hmm.
right? So the value is in those quiet moments. Like, again, what is that voice that goes off that you can hear?
Yeah.
Or what is the idea that just sparked in the stillness?
Wow.
And now just go execute, go experiment.
Yeah. I love that. Such good gems. Ah, I'm glad that we captured that moment. I just love that because, you know, we don't share those valleys enough. We don't share the shadows and being in the shadow. We don't share those dark times enough because Maybe because of a lot of fear, we're embarrassed, or we don't think it matters. We want to just show, the end of the rainbow and Lucky Charms and, all the gold. But when we share these moments like this, there's another person, another woman, another man out there that is watching and that is listening that feels like they're alone and like no one else is going through this ish like me. But when we share those moments, there's some commonality there and it gives a person some hope. It gives them hope. Like you
Yes.
said, like the seed that's in the dark and in the dirt that gives them the hope to push through. Yeah.
Yeah. And I if anything, I really hope that if there is a successful high six figure, seven figure, eight figure entrepreneur that's listening, please share the zigzag. Please share the roller coaster moments where you were like down in the valley, in the dark, in the shadow, because a lot of times as a society, as media, we will talk about the overnight success, but there is
Mm-hmm.
no magic bullet, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is no
Mm-hmm.
overnight success.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was an overnight success after 20 years of working really hard and chipping away,
Right.
you know,
If that's what you want to call overnight, huh?
right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That's so true. And I really wish that, and I hope that the 7, 8 figures will share. It's going to be a game
yeah.
changer for those that are trying to get to that path. Did you have any negative feedback from anyone in your circle or even colleagues when you launched your business?
Yeah, they were all well-meaning, so that's really important to just kind of stress. No one was like going out trying to like have me clutch my pearls, but I will say
I love
there
it.
are people in my network, especially from like my corporate world, like when I was at Nestle and I left Nestle for a biotech, it was an incredible opportunity to go be a creative director and help develop this
Mm-hmm.
biotech's brand with incredible science behind their technology. Some of my associates at Nestle thought I was absolutely crazy for leaving.
Mm.
And that was like the first of that series where after 18 months I was laid off. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I felt a little crazy. But the feedback I got, when I opened Fortified Branding's doors was, well, there you are again, switching jobs again. And it's like,
Mm.
I am a loyalist and I will stick with something.
Man.
And if while at Nestle, if I felt underemployed and undervalued, well, then I am going to go find a place where I am valued,
Yes.
right? And so, yeah, I think there are moments, if I had let those voices fully in, I would have really doubted, like, what am I doing? Maybe they're right. Are they telling me
Mm-hmm.
I'm flaky? Oh, look, they just retired
Mm.
at 45 from the pension that they got at Nestle. I don't have that, right? But to
Yeah.
compare us to despair, that's not my journey. That's clearly not my karma. I wasn't supposed to be doing that, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's really important to like hold on to what is your mission or theme in your own life.
Mm-hmm. Hold on to that.
Hmm.
No matter what anyone says, hold on to that.
Yeah. And
Wow.
it can be really easy to be set adrift by what someone says
Oh,
and have that doubt creep in.
heck yeah. I think,
Hmm.
that's when doubt does creep in when people start saying things, especially when you're in your low moments, right? And we're like, I don't know, you really think you should do that? And they're like, maybe I shouldn't do
Hmm.
that. I'm not sure.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
you, like you said, you have to really hold on to what's true to you. We talk about being our authentic self, our true self, holding on to what you believe is the vision for your life, the calling for your life, the purpose for your life. How has saying yes for you changed your life?
Mm. I never imagined when I said yes to myself how expansive my life would become from the
Mm,
incredible humans that I've met along the way, like you,
wow.
to the conversations I've had where I'm like, oh, I go to church every day. This is amazing. to discovering inner strength that I
Yeah.
never gave myself credit for, right? We
Yeah.
really truly are built for storms, but you don't know that until you're truly tested. And being an
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneur, you are a flagpole, not a flag. You are constantly being tested.
Mm. Mm. That is so true. But we
Yes.
have to, like a flagpole on the ground. We got to be firm. We got to stand. We got to hold it. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on to your
Mm-hmm.
dream. Hold on to your calling. Ah, man, Beth, you just dropping gems today, girl.
I love being a treasure chest to entrepreneurs. It's
Yeah.
our only way forward.
So, what do you have to say to the individual that wants to take the leap of faith in pursuing their goal or their dream? Talk to them about believing in their own personal brand, not your business brand, but believing in your personal
Mm-hmm.
brand.
Mm-hmm. So that let's go back to that moment of stillness,
Yeah.
right? Um, I'm a little woo, right? That's one of my top strengths. So I'm going to go woo here for a moment.
Go
But
woo.
I think what's really important in that stillness is to really go within and listen to that inner voice. Like, what is the drum that is driving you forward? That drum beat, right? What are the things that light you up with joy?
Yeah.
And really write those down. Like, start journaling. Like, what would it look like to become whatever that inner drive is driving you to, right?
Mm.
And if you get a negative voice, like, no one's going to want that, I want to challenge you. I've met entrepreneurs along this path who are like, I love helping other women have babies, so I want to be a doula. And in being a doula, I'm going to create a membership on how to be a better parent.
Hmm.
Or uh, there's a sex therapist, and she's like, I want to help more women feel more fulfilled. So she's
Mm.
created a whole community, right? And it
Wow.
goes on and on. So we may think, oh, what I know, which is our intellectual property, is not going to be of value of anyone else. I want to challenge you and say, hey, what happens if you lean in and just start doing small actions that lead to long term effects?
Mm.
So maybe while you're holding down the 9 to 5 that you hate or feels toxic or you love, but there's this job insecurity, what happens if while you're doing that during your downtimes, instead of Netflixing and chilling, you are taking small actions to start to communicate or clarify this other business venture, this other service, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. We have to, and I just always want to go back to you're talking about holding on to what's true to you and what brings you joy. Just because someone is skilled at doing something doesn't mean that that's the path for them, right? It needs to be what's going to bring you joy. And I know that what you do and how you're helping and changing the lives of women through branding is bringing you joy. Because I feel it all in
Yeah.
your soul that it's bringing you joy. Um, would you like to give us some branding tips while we're here? Because there's a lot of entrepreneurs that are watching and listening. That you can drop a few tips and we'll make your information available. But drop some tips on us today.
Sure, absolutely. So I think branding is sometimes really misunderstood.
Okay.
Branding is beyond a logo and colors.
Mm.
It really is an intentional way of saying, this is how I want my company, my service, my product, myself, if I'm a personal brand, to be perceived. Um, your brand is what people say when you're not in the room. How do they think of you? What do they associate with you? And so
Mm.
what you do is you make an effort to create something and plant it in the world saying, this is who I am. This is how I want you to think of me. And then the rest is really up to the world, right?
Yes.
So So brand, there's a lot of building blocks in brand. So there's a foundational, like your brand compass, your architecture, vision, mission, purpose,
Okay.
promise, right? And then on top of that, brick layer is messaging, identity.
Mm.
Who am I serving? How am I serving them? What is the framework or approach that I take in serving them? Then on top of that is, what are the colors that my audience identifies with that then defines my product, my service, my company,
Mm.
right? So
Okay.
making your brand about your audience versus you and your personal preference is super important. This is really, I'm talking about what we hear a lot about, positioning,
Mm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
What are the words that your audience uses when they talk about what's keeping them up at night or their pain,
Mm.
right? And then how do you come in and solve it? That's also part of branding.
Wow. Wow.
Um, yeah, ultimately, it's what is your intention for the world and how do you want to make people feel at the end of
Mm.
the day? That's branding. It is an immersive experience. Marketing is where you then publicize it and put it on all the channels. But branding is where you first begin
Okay.
because it's an intention.
I love that. And I just really love how you're such a visionary because when you speak, I'm like imagining and seeing seeing these things in my head. I could see it. You're a great storyteller, and it's important for us to know that we often think that a brand is a logo, and we spend so much time. And we learned this when we were in the millionaire club that we were in, that we look for the perfect logo, which sure, you need a logo, but that's not what branding is. And thank you for breaking that down for us. And thank you for sharing what marketing is. And it's definitely going to, I think, like you said, you're a growth marketer. If we are able to tap in marketing, we can see our business grow once we know what our brand is, right? Our personal
Yeah.
brand or our business brand. But I want y'all to get in touch with Beth because she will help you to be everything that you desire to be. And sometimes we need to partner with people and make the investment in ourselves in order for our business or for our brand to grow. Because that's what she did for herself. She made the investment and took a chance on her. And this is the result of that. If you can speak to the younger Beth, what would you tell her?
That everything, hey, younger Beth, everything you know that you love, lean into. And, it's really interesting revisiting the dreams of who I wanted to be as a young girl. I wanted to be an astronaut. I was told, you're not good at math, so you can't be an astronaut. And so I believed them. Um, I wanted to be I wanted to be an author. I wanted to be like the next Maya Angelou. I was such a fangirl of her, even as a little girl. My mom would play her records, right? I realized, right, as I got older, actually, I'm a really good storyteller and I love illustrating through words as well as design what the thoughts are and how to touch people,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, um, hey, little Beth, lean into what lights you up because it's going to lead paths in your future of belonging.
So true. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
It's going to lead you. It's going to lead you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you, Beth, so much for just this experience that we've had with you today. That's been so enlightening, not just from a business perspective, but from a soul perspective. of really holding on to what brings you joy and going after the thing or the dream that brings you joy. I love it. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
for being an incredible visionary yourself, Amanda. Thank you.
Thank you. So you guys, you can follow Beth. All of her information is going to be in the show notes. And guess what? You're a dope queen, a dope king, and there's nothing that is impossible for you to achieve. And as Marie Forleo will say, everything is figure outable. So figure it out and make your dreams come true. Y'all take care. Thank you, Beth.
Thank you.